All right, quick video of some stocks I'm going to be watching tomorrow and really all week. Some of these are fairly interesting. This is LYV. Um, Big volume candle today. And look at the recent action. I mean, market's been fairly weak, and this one's holding up really well. Let's glance at the SPY real quick. Oh man, I got a lot of lines on there. When I say the say the market's been really weak, you had that big sell-off there, a couple green days, and then right back down. But really, we're in a sideways range. But you notice the red days, pretty much for the past few months, or couple months anyway, it seems like the big red days are on higher volume. So I think if you trade every day like I do and you're in the trenches every day, you can kind of feel this thing wanting to roll over. Doesn't mean it's going to, but it feels kind of weak to me. So having said that, that's why I say LYV is pretty has pretty good relative strength here. So watching this one for long, especially if you can get up over this last couple weeks worth of trading. Take two, TTWO. Now this one I was calling for a bounce when it hit the 200 day, because you see you had a nice bounce off the 200 day back here. Whoops, back here. This purple line is the 200 day, and then came down on volume, and it did it again here. Came down on volume on earnings and hit the 200 day. But now after a couple 3-day bounce and nice relative strength to the market, you did have resistance back here. And then it became support right here, resistance there. And it's gone up 3 days after the earnings sell-off into that. So I'm almost leaning short for a trade tomorrow, depending on how it acts around that 1950 area that was support. It could be resistance there. You can see it's climbing on declining volume. So I'm actually kind of leaning short for a trade on TTWO. JWN, after the, talk about relative strength, by the way, after this big pop up here, couple red days, and really when a stock gaps up, oftentimes they just go into a range, and that's really what's happened with JWN. Okay, and so now we're near the bottom of the range. Okay, so any kind of market strength, I'm looking long on JWN. You've got 2 days in a row now after the gap up down to the bottom of the range, so I'm kind of leaning long as a potential bounce play for JWN. Dick's Sporting Goods, DKS, wow. I mean, huge selling today, big volume. But if you pan way out, this area used to be resistance. I drew a line there, and it's coming in. And sometimes when you get this kind of massive selling and it just can't seem to catch a bounce all day. In other words, shorts, every little bounce they sell off, and it's not out of the norm that this one closed pretty much at its lows of the day. Shorts just had a hold of it today. Now, will it bounce tomorrow? I don't know, but I am leaning towards a bounce in this one tomorrow, because sometimes you just need that overnight for a kind of a refresh, and then you can get a decent bounce the next day. So I don't just dive into anything. Everything I take is based on an intraday basis with the longer term chart in mind. So keep that in mind. Anyway, CLF, I'm not a fan, as well, really nobody's a fan of the coals, right? But this one is kind of has shape change, what we look for capitulation. You don't have capitulation volume. But you're nearing, some support from, yeah, I know, I have to go all the way back to last summer for it, but you're nearing some support, and if you, loosely connect the tops of the daily candles, you can see the kind of shape change there. So, this one can get down near this red line here. It could be worth watching for a bounce. Just keep your eyes on the coals. Nothing pretty about that chart, though. I just happened to notice the 4 days down and pretty much straight down nearing support. That certainly isn't one of the primary ones I'll be watching tomorrow, but it doesn't cost me anything to have it on a chart. JGW, I don't know anything about this stock other than it just got pummeled the other day. I pointed it out actually in the chat room as a potential bounce. I think it was on this day when it was getting that shape change. And a couple of our guys grabbed it, in the 970, 980 area, and doesn't look like much, but went all the way up over 11. But since then, it still hasn't broken. If I put a line at the opening high, opening 15-minute candles high, every day since then, what do you notice? You'll notice that it never broke that early high the rest of the day. But you're starting to get really narrow. Okay, so this one goes on bounce watch. One of these days, if you break a previous day's high, or you get a long range like this and then an afternoon high of day break, I'll bet you get a pretty nice trade. So throw JGW on a chart. Doesn't cost you anything to have it on a chart. Darden Restaurants, DRI. This one's interesting. I believe they announced that they're selling Red Lobster. They've still got a whole bunch of restaurants. Olive Garden's one of them that most people know of. Anyway, it is right down to support, or you can say, hey, we've got a head and shoulders possibly here in a breakdown. So this is one I'm really not leaning long or short. It kind of depends on the overall market, but there could be a good short, with any volume below 48, or if the market's strong, this could be a good long if we can catch any kind of intraday setup around 48 if it holds, okay? Otherwise, like the next level's down here at 47, and then you can see down here at 46. So it certainly could easily fall to one of these levels. And I guess if I had to pick, I'd be leaning for a possible breakdown below 48, but that doesn't mean I'm right, okay? So anyway, it's one of those. It's just either at support or getting ready to break support. How's that for analysis? Let's see. EJ. I like the volume today. I believe they had earnings. You can kind of just picture a channel, right? And that's just loosely based. It's not exact, but then certainly broke out of it today on pretty good volume. So this one needs to be on a chart somewhere on your screens, for the next week or two going forward. But you got to like that volume, and this one's on watch. EJ, let's see, Lionsgate, LGF. This one had great relative strength today. Busted through the 50-day. And, again, another one that you got to like the strength, and it could be, it held 25 really nicely, but now it's up 3-4 days in a row. It might find resistance at 28 or this next level at 28, somewhere around 28 and a half. So it could come up here and give a decent short, could like peek through 28 and give a decent short setup. But it certainly seems like it's bottomed around 25 and probably higher from here. I don't really like the prospects of trading this one tomorrow, but I think it's a chart worth watching going forward. WWE, I don't have any kind of prediction on this thing other than it just got cut in half a few days ago and it's on a chart. And QTWW, kind of along those lines, really, really beaten up here, right? It fell from 7 to 3, but then look, ever since then, it's really been in a range and had great relative strength today, kind of sneaking out of this range. It feels like this $3 area was the bottom, and it might be up from here. Again, I don't really want to, if you go on an intraday basis, it's kind of ahead of itself now. I don't really want to chase this thing, but it feels like the pullbacks might be viable going forward. That might be all I have. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to leave the list at that for now. We'll find other stuff as the morning unfolds as well. So have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.